It was a typical hot afternoon in Kampala. The bustling streets were alive with vendors selling fresh fruits and bodabodas zooming past, narrowly missing pedestrians. Nambi sat on the porch of her small but comfortable home, staring blankly at her phone. It was happening again. Her husband, Akina, had sent her a text that morning saying he was heading out on yet another business trip. This time, it was to Gulu, about 5 hours away. The text read, "Business is tough, love. I'll be back in 3 days. Stay well." Nambi sighed deeply, her heart heavy. For the past 6 months, Akina had been traveling for work more frequently, sometimes staying away for days, even weeks. Every time he left, her mind would spiral with suspicion. What was he really up to? There were no signs of infidelity when he was home. He was affectionate, loving, and attentive. But the nagging thought persisted, why was he always gone? Her best friend, Miriam, had suggested she follow him. "You need to know for sure," Miriam had said over coffee just a few days ago. "Maybe he's seeing someone else." That idea gnawed at her. Was he cheating? He had always been trustworthy, but lately everything felt off. Business trips had become more frequent, and he was cagey about details. Her decision came suddenly. Enough is enough, Nambi muttered. She picked up her phone, called a trusted bodaboda rider, and planned to leave in an hour. The drive to Gulu was long and exhausting. The rider, Sam, tried to engage her in small talk, but Nambi barely responded. Her mind raced. What if she found Akina with another woman? What if she was right all along, and her life was about to be turned upside down? The sun was setting by the time they arrived at Gulu. The town was much quieter than Kampala, and the cool evening breeze made it almost peaceful. Sam parked outside a small guest house that Akina had mentioned in passing weeks ago, but Nambi had remembered every detail. Her heart pounded in her chest as she walked toward the entrance. The receptionist, a young woman with a polite smile, greeted her. "Hello, how can I help you?" Nambi forced a smile. "I'm looking for my husband, Akina. I believe he's staying here." The receptionist frowned, flipping through a large book of entries. "No, sorry. We don't have anyone by that name staying here." Nambi blinked, stunned. This was the only place Akina ever mentioned in Gulu. Her stomach twisted. Maybe he was staying under a different name. Trying to remain calm, she thanked the receptionist and walked back out to the street. Where could he be? She whispered to herself. The thought of returning to Kampala without answers felt unbearable. Just as she was about to give up, she spotted a familiar figure across the road. Akina. Nambi's heart skipped a beat as she watched her husband, wearing a jacket and a dark blue shirt she recognized, get into a small car with a man she didn't know. She ducked behind a nearby stall and quickly waved Sam over. "Follow that car," she whispered urgently, pointing at the vehicle Akina had just entered. Sam nodded, and they began to tail the car at a safe distance. Nambi's thoughts were racing. Who was that man? What kind of business was Akina really involved in? The car drove through the dimly lit streets of Gulu for almost half an hour, finally stopping in front of an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. The building looked abandoned, with broken windows and rusted metal doors. Nambi watched from the shadows as Akina and the man got out and walked inside. Her hands were trembling. "This doesn't look like a business meeting," she muttered. "What do you want to do now?" Sam asked quietly, sensing her unease. Nambi hesitated. Every instinct told her to go home, to leave this alone. But she needed to know the truth. "I'm going in," she said firmly, her voice barely above a whisper. Inside the warehouse, Nambi carefully slipped through a side door. The interior was dark, except for a faint light coming from the far end of the building. She crept closer, her heart pounding, until she heard voices. She crouched behind a stack of old crates and peeked around the corner. There, under the dim light of a single hanging bulb, was Akina, standing beside a large wooden table. On the table were stacks of money, bundles wrapped in rubber bands. Her stomach flipped. Was this a drug deal? Or something worse? The man Akina had arrived with spoke fast, his voice low and menacing. "Everything's ready. We just need to move the money by tomorrow. The shipment comes in at dawn." Akina nodded, looking serious and tense. "Good. We can't afford any mistakes. If the authorities find out..." Nambi gasped before she could stop herself, her mind spinning. Akina wasn't cheating. He was involved in something dangerous, illegal, possibly criminal. She tried to retreat quietly, but her foot hit a loose piece of metal, sending it clattering across the floor. The sound echoed through the warehouse, and Akina and the other man froze. "Who's there?" Akina shouted, stepping toward the sound. Nambi's heart was racing now. She backed up, trying to stay hidden, but before she could escape, Akina spotted her. His eyes widened in shock. "Nambi. What are you doing here?" he whispered harshly, his face a mixture of fear and confusion. "I could ask you the same thing," she hissed back, her voice trembling. "What is this, Akina? What are you doing?" The man with Akina stepped forward, eyeing her suspiciously. "Is this your wife?" Akina quickly nodded, stepping between them. "Nambi, this isn't what it looks like. Just go home. I'll explain later." "Explain later," she shot back, her voice rising. "You're involved in something illegal, Akina. How long have you been doing this? Is this where all your business trips lead?" Akina glanced nervously at the man beside him, then back at Nambi. "It's complicated. I needed the money. You know how tough things have been." Nambi felt her stomach churn. "But this? Crime? I thought you were just working hard to support us." Suddenly, the man grabbed Akina by the arm. "We don't have time for this. She can't leave now. She's seen too much." Akina's eyes went wide. "No. Don't touch her." The tension in the room escalated, and for a moment it felt like time had stopped. Nambi's entire world was crashing down around her. She had come here expecting to find a cheating husband, but what she uncovered was far worse, a man trapped in a web of crime and lies, doing dangerous things for money. Before things could escalate further, the sound of police sirens pierced the silence. Red and blue lights flashed outside the warehouse. The man cursed under his breath, grabbing the bundles of money. "We need to go. Now." Akina hesitated, looking at Nambi with a pained expression. "Run, Nambi. Get out of here before they see you." Nambi didn't move. Her legs felt frozen to the ground. She couldn't believe what was happening. But before anyone could react further, the warehouse doors burst open, and the police stormed in, guns drawn. "Hands up. Everyone down." Akina and the man were quickly overpowered and arrested. Nambi stood there, numb, as the chaos unfolded around her. Back in Kampala, days later, Nambi sat in their now empty living room, staring blankly at the wall. Akina was in jail, awaiting trial. The life she thought she had, the man she thought she knew, was gone. But amidst the pain and betrayal, Nambi felt a strange sense of relief. The truth had come out. It wasn't the truth she had expected, but at least now she knew. As she sat there, her phone buzzed. A message from Miriam popped up. "Are you okay? I heard what happened. Call me if you need anything." Nambi took a deep breath. Maybe now she could start over, rebuild her life, this time with no secrets. She typed a quick response, "I'll be okay. I'll call you soon. Thanks." And with that, she stood up, ready to face whatever came next.